I make the world graphical.
I add value through my products.
I am an animator.
I am a filmmaker. I develop trends.
I transform designs to reality.
I create environments.
I translate stories to furniture.
I design experiences.
I'm an immersive media designer.
I design mobility.
This is not only a design institute.
This is a design lab.
Join us in our design movement.
So hello everyone, good afternoon. I welcome you all to the series of webinars and workshops by MIT Institute of Design. Since last 5 years, as a part of Design Connect program, we are interacting with design aspirants through various seminars, webinars, and workshops where experts share their experiences to the young budding designers. So this year, we have moved one step ahead by keeping these sessions more interactive and engaging the students to get hands-on experience on various topics of design. So here we are today in today's Design Connect, The Art of Storytelling by Professor Arup Dwivedi, Assistant Professor, Animation Design, MIT Institute of Design, MIT ADT University, Pune. So I really feel honored and to welcome and introduce our speaker, Professor Arup Dwivedi. He is a postgraduate from Kanpur University, who later moved to Hyderabad to study animation filmmaking from Heart Entertainment Limited, a studio launched with the sole purpose of servicing the 2D animation requirements of Hollywood. He has worked in Software Frontiers Limited and was a part of core team of DataQuest Entertainment Limited in their startup days. He holds 13 years of experience in Indian animation industry, out of which last 6 years, he has been teaching animation to the ups and coming breed of animators in India. He has trained animation students for Raj Comics Delhi, SCMS Group of Education Coaching, Ferguson College Pune, and PES College of Engineering Bangalore. He specializes in classical animation and pre-production. He has also been involved in creating the syllabus and contents for the UG level animation programs that are being run in Jaipur National University and Karnataka State Open University. In his empty time, he dabbles in drawing, animation, and photography. So now I request to Professor Arup Dwivedi to take over the further proceedings of the session. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. She has introduced me already, but I'll do it again. I'm Arup Dwivedi, and I teach in animation design. And I consider myself very blessed to be able to do for a living what I really love to do. For a living, for salary or not, I can't imagine myself not drawing and not illustrating. So that's me. I'm a faculty in the animation department. As she rightly put, I'm assistant professor, but when I'm not teaching and when I'm not animating, this is what I do, right? It's right behind me. My interest lies in, especially in the sphere of illustration, my interest really lies in reportage style of illustration, which is, I like doing comics which are based on travel experiences. So every time I travel, I try to create a comic script about it, the idiosyncrasies of the regions that I have traveled to. And so that's what I do. Also, my animation films, I make animation films. I am around 4 short films old. In animation, as an independent animation filmmaker, you cannot make feature films. All you can do is make short films, and that way I'm a late bloomer. I only started making films when I joined academics. Before that, I used to work for the industry, so I was making films for somebody else, and so that way I'm a late bloomer. But I'm around 4 film old. 5th film is in the gestation. It should be out by May or June. So that's basically me. The reason I'm here today is I perhaps wanted to share this interesting facet of illustration, and it's also very challenging, which is called a monocytic narrative. Now, before we get into those details, I thought I'll just perhaps take you through a little journey of myself and how I became an animator, and also give you a glimpse of what I'm about to talk about. So let me just start sharing my screen. Yes. So just to give you a little overview, I'm a 70s born. So I have I really do not know the demographics and the age group of the people attending the seminar, but I'll talk anyway. So I know India, which was before the 90s, which was a license, almost socialist economy. And I have also seen the liberal economy, that is the contemporary economy of India that we live in now. So I have seen those two very different facets of India. And I have grown up primarily in the earlier times, which was before the 90s. And so before the 90s, there was not much to pre-liberalization. There was not much we can do as kids, because there was no internet, there was no television, hardly any television, not like the satellite TV that you have today. So there was no YouTube, there was no social networking. So we just had, life was very binary. So it's either you are in a school or you are not in a school. So, and when you're not in a school, then the only thing that we were left to do was to go out and play or read comics. And perhaps that's how it got triggered. That's how I wanted to nurture an idea of getting into this industry. But before that, a lot has happened already, because the time that I come from, it wasn't really a very popular profession becoming an illustrator. In fact, the popular professions around that time were actually just very few. Am I sharing my screen? So the popular professions were, you can either become an MBA, ICWA, CA, bank PO, civil servant. I'm from a commerce. I studied commerce, and I graduated from there. So that's all you could do. And so this little guy, that's me over here. And so I've always lived through that predicament, that I knew that this is not something that I want to do. But the choices that I was given were just that. And there wasn't much exposure. I come from not a very big town, not a metropolitan city. So the city I come from, there wasn't much exposure to design at all. Although NID existed around that time, we did not know about it. So the next best thing that happened post-liberalization was that there was a new array of jobs that started coming in. And the first one was, computers became very popular, and everybody wanted to be a computer programmer. Every guy, even the Sharma ji ka ladka, I'm sorry if there's a Sharma ji here, but that's how they say it outside these days. So everybody wanted to be a computer professional. So for me, there was another reason. I really like the crowd of those institutes. So I kind of decided that maybe this is where my interest lies. Let's give it a chance. And they were exorbitantly expensive courses, but somehow my father agreed to it because a lot of people in my peer group were doing the same thing. So it was not too difficult to convince him to pay for my fees. And so there I went, took the check from my father and went to this computer center, which obviously our middle class family was not in a position to afford around that time. We were pushing our envelope, but then we did. And then a few years later, this happened. I realized that I don't belong there. I'm completely out of my comfort zone, and I'm completely out of my space. And that programming was not suiting me, that coding was not suiting me. So I said goodbye and I ran away, which means I dropped out. I did not even finish my course. But yeah, I as long as I was there, I was a pretty decent student. I did fairly well, but I really did not enjoy what I was doing. So I said bye-bye and I left. And then I went to my dad and I said, okay, I want to, regather my thoughts. So I want to travel. And you guys may not know, but Tilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge has just come out. It was pretty popular around that time, almost became a pop culture influence. And so anybody who saw that film wanted to travel, go to Switzerland. And that was the reason that I said, yeah, okay, that's what I want to do. So I went to my father and said, I want to travel. I don't think he appreciated it a lot. So I changed my goalpost, and instead of a world, I said, you know what, I'll just settle for Calcutta. I'll go to Calcutta. My uncle used to live in Calcutta. So I changed my goalpost immediately. And then this happened. And so, yeah, I was kicked out. That plan did not go down really well. But I reached Calcutta somehow. And when I was in Calcutta, I was reading Illustrated Weekly, and I read this article, which was about Warner Brothers coming down to India and opening animation training institute. They were doing this in tie-up with Annapurna Studios. If anybody of you is from Hyderabad or has been to Hyderabad, you would know that they are pretty big name out there. And so, well, I said, okay, good idea, maybe computer, new city, chance to have a girlfriend, because I was an absolute loser. That's what we do. And so the cycle started again. I am again finding a little grounding of what I want to do with my life. And again, I can somehow convince my father. I think he would have done anything to get me out of his house at this stage. So money was not a problem. They just wanted me gone. And 1 week later, this happened. The thing was that I was a computer programmer, and they have advertised that they will have silicon graphic machines. So I was able to put 2 and 2 together, and I somehow gathered the notion that this profession is just cut out for me, because I know computers, and I know I will learn animation, and I'll be able to club them together, and I'll then the sky is the limit. But the thing was that there were not a single computer, and this is 1997, by the way. So there was not a single computer in that institute, and that riled me up. So I went in and spoke to the higher authorities, and I said that, hey, listen, I thought that I'll learn, I know computers, so I'll be able to do animation much easily, but you don't have any computers over there. And that's when this revelation happened, when I was told that, you know what, why don't you study animation instead of computers? And that's when I realized that, computers and animation are 2 very different things. They are not interdependent. So this is me trying to figure out the whole computer and animation are not the same thing. So I was given an opportunity to either go back home or stay back and slog it out and learn to draw, I used to know how to draw because I have learned comics, and when you learn comic, the second thing that you do is you try to copy comic. But the drawing for animation is entirely different ball game. So I had two choices: either to go back and say I give up. I have already done that quite a few times, so that apparently was not a choice anymore. So well, I decided that I will learn to draw, and then when I started doing it, I started enjoying it. I realized that this is such a cool thing to do, being able to animate and create life. I mean, it's nobody else can do it other than God. So I mean, even doctors can save lives, but it's just animator and God who are able to actually create life from scratch, and that I felt very empowered when I was doing that. And so I kept on going, and I got better at what I did because I was enjoying it so much. And then, I started getting compliments for that. And so remember that one time when I was trying to switch city and changing institutes because, I didn't had a girlfriend. Well, that problem was solved because now I was popular and I was good at what I did. And so, well, the rest of the story I'll tell you when you guys are on campus. So I'll end this over here. So this is a little a small introduction of myself. Now I'll get back to what I was talking about, which was, of course, monocytic narrative. Now, monocytic narrative is not something which is new. Monocytic narrative has existed in the medieval era, in the classical Hellenistic era, the classical antiquity. Monocytic narrative is just one drawing that tells you a story, or one piece of architecture that tells you a story, or one mural, or one frieze, or one relief work that tells you a story. And that's as simple as that is. Although it's just one form of narrative, there are several other forms of narrative, which are synoptic, panoptic, sequential narrative, but we'll not talk about those because those are very complex topics to discuss at this stage. I'll keep it very, very confined to the monocytic narrative, a single image that tells a story. Now that becomes quite a bit of challenge because how do you tell a story using a single image? So the challenge is overcome through a context. So in monocytic narrative, the effective form of monocytic narrative always have a context associated to it. So a lot of political cartoonists, they do a monocytic narrative, and that context comes from the politics that they are doing a comment on. So R.K. Lakshman used to do a lot of monocytic narrative. His Common Man was almost entirely monocytic narrative. So it was a comment on the India and everything that was happening around him, R.K. Lakshman, around those days. R.K. Lakshman was the author surrogate. So Common Man is actually R.K. Lakshman telling what he's seeing through the common man. So that's what monocytic narrative is. Monocytic narrative is, it takes a context, which is something that is happening around you, infers that into a drawing. So it does not necessarily explicitly introduces it, but it just infers it. So for instance, what I will do is I will just quickly So what I'll do is I'll quickly create a small illustration. And since there is so much going on because of Corona, I think I'll just perhaps make a small comment on that. And I'm using application because it's TV Paint, because it's easier to connect to the system. But you can, if you want to, you can draw along and you can choose whichever application that you want to. use, and that is entirely your creative choice. Now, before you make any illustration, a very important thing to do is to understand your space. And in order to understand the space, you need a horizon. And once I have understood my space through the horizon, then I can start using that space and adding elements to it. So and another thing that you can always do is just do a very rough version of the drawing before you settle down to finish it. It allows you to understand your blocking, how you are using space without making too much effort and without using too much of pencil mileage. So I want a scene in a restaurant. So I want this guy to be eating, nibbling on something. And so and I want to do a little anthropomorphosis. Anthropomorphosis, I'll just write this down. Anthropomorphosis is when you give human attributes to something which is obviously not human. So I'll do a little anthropomorphosis of the virus itself, because I'm trying to create a gag about corona or COVID. So of course it needs to have COVID as a part of my illustration, and they are talking something which I will write down when I start to fear it. So my blocking is fairly ready. Now once I'm done with this, I'm noticing that I really do not need this extra space at the bottom, because there's nothing really happening at that region. So what I will do is I will, in your case, you can, if you're using a paper, then you can just crop it, as in like cut out that part. In my case, what I can do is I'll just make a selection of this whole thing, and I push it to the bottom, which allows me to use the space at the top to write dialogues. So now I have this little setup ready, which is happening while my context is the entire pandemic, which is COVID. And so that's my context. And while that is happening around the world, there's this guy who's sitting in a restaurant and he's eating something. And there are two characters which are anthropomorphized form of the virus itself, COVID virus itself, are standing behind him and they're discussing something. That's something I will reveal in time. So just go back to this. So So while I had been working on a version of this since the morning, so again, I did this so that we do not lose out on time uh, while I discuss about this. So what I'll do next is a process which is called cleanup, and in which I'm giving this a little embodiment and characterizing this. I'll start with this itself. So this is the drawing that I did, and now I'll start cleaning this up. So I'll use a black pen, a black ink. So here's a little trivia. What he's eating is a hot dog. And the trivia is that the first time that I heard about the hot dog was in a Superman comic. And I had never seen a hot dog, or I've never heard of a hot dog before that. I was perhaps 7-year-old. And I actually thought that it's literally a dog that is cooked and served to people in whichever city that Superman was in that particular comic. So for us, comic was a window to the world. I mean, that's how important the comics were, because there was a complete lack of information regarding anything that happens beyond our peripheral region, and all that information used to be filled in by the comics that we used to read. So I mean, my favorite comics had always been Mad comics. I don't know if you have heard of it at all. It's pretty old, but the illustrations in that were pretty zany, and I took an immediate liking to those kind of drawings. So a lot of people from my generation have actually learned drawings, trying to imitate comics or editorial cartoons, and we are very unabashedly and unapologetic about that. And so I'm just kind of illustrating the virus who's having this intense discussion with a junior apprentice virus regarding something that they're doing. And if you guys want to, you can draw along. You can use any stationery that you have access to, and you can draw along. You can choose a topic of your liking, anything that you want to talk about. Let the context be the current affairs, whatever is happening in the world around you. and using that you can build further on that. Best would be to create a thumbnail. Sorry, I did not tell you what a thumbnail is. This rough drawing that I did initially to block my space of the story that I want to tell, this is what's called a thumbnail. It's usually done in a much smaller scale, just to understand the space and the composition a little better. Once you have done this and once you're happy about this, then you can start expanding on this. Which app is best for illustration? There's no such thing as the best app for illustration. I'm using Television Paint because I'm comfortable on Television Paint, TV Paint. Sketchbook Pro is a application which is free, and it's a very strong application for illustration. Abyss Paint is something which I use when I am working on my tab. Other illustration is Clip Studio Paint, but for that you have to pay. You have Creta. Creta is again free. So yeah, there are plenty of them out there. You will have to start exploring them and seeing which one fits your requirement the best. I personally use TV Paint because it allows me to animate also. And Clip Studio Paint and Abyss Paint do not allow animation. Autodesk Sketchbook have an animation module, but it's still very nascent and it's still very underdeveloped. And Creta, like I said, is a free application which is meant for animation. But since I use TV Paint, I don't use Creta because I'm already comfortable in TV Paint, so I didn't want it to switch to Creta. Did I answer your question? I hope I did. So for us, like I was talking, how important the comics were to us. I mean, we have micro ecosystems in our milieus, which was very codependent on the kind of comics that we were reading. And so those ecosystem involved comic clubs and small entrepreneurial ventures in which a kid who has good number of comics will open a library in his garage where he'll be renting out the comics to the neighbors and the kids. So crazy times those were. And now it's just all YouTube and everything. So things certainly have changed. And it's not in a bad way that they have changed. I mean, I'm part of that change myself and I have embraced it. So yeah, so this is my finished illustration. What I'll do now is, it's important to establish contrasts in your drawing, and in this it's looking very flat. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly establish a little texture and a little contrast so that it's not looking so bland, and there is a little semblance of some interest. And I'll just start filling color. And one thing that has happened when I started filling the color is that the lines, because I've colored everything black, the black lines also disappeared. So I can use a white line to so I can use a white line to make that segregation. And so that problem is sorted. So I look at it and it looks fairly okay. I'll just perhaps introduce a little more shade into this. And bring in a little gray. And so I've got a basic illustration ready with me. Little more work here and there will just refine it further. If I can just indulge you guys for a few more minutes and create a little depth using light and shadow. The most original ideas are always the ideas which you relate with. So for me, my comics are usually about things that I have seen, I have experienced, things that I have been privy to in person. Sometimes those experiences are very, very awkward. But then when you later look at it in retrospect and think about it, then you laugh, you can laugh it off. And for me, those experiences have always made the best content, because those are the most honest stories, since they are coming from me and since I have been a part of those stories. So it's never a problem if you actually sit down to think about it. A good storytelling, we do it all the time. We just do not realize that we are doing a storytelling. You know that moment when you go to your friend and you say that, hey, do you know what happened? And that is a prelude to a storytelling. And we just don't know that we are telling them a story. But if you go to your friend and everything that you are about to tell him, by saying that, hey, guess what happened today? If you can illustrate it, it becomes what I do. And that's what I do. I have things to tell you, and I'm trying to tell people, hey, guess what happened? I was traveling in Thailand and in Phuket, and I had this culture shock, and I'm very excited to tell you about that story. But just instead of telling you that story, I draw it. So I think that serves that whole word, that whole sentence, hey, guess what happened today? Or do you know what happened today? Or you won't believe what I'm about to say. That is precursor to a story. And then it's your decision if you want to illustrate it or if you want to tell it explicitly. In either ways, you are being a storyteller. Did I answer that? Did that answer your question? And thank you for asking, because sitting here and just drawing becomes very boring. So please feel free to ask as many questions as you can. I'll be very, very happy, and I'll also be very obliged because it kind of keeps me occupied. Okay. Oh, no, don't do that. Don't try to capture visual diary immediately. No. See, we have tendency, all of us, the things that I am telling through my stories are, the gist of it is same, but I am doing a little manipulation to the narrative for dramatic effect. So which is holding back the best part of the joke. We do it all the time when we're telling the joke. So we hold that best part of the joke for the last frame. In monocytic narrative, that is the frame, the best part of the joke, where the punch lies is in monocytic narrative. You draw only that frame. So you don't have to document it in the moment. You actually need to get past that moment, to spend some time nurturing that idea and how you want to break it down into frames and in slugs. So yeah, so that's what I would advise you. Don't get too caught up in trying to capture the moment. No, absorb the moment, then spend time thinking about it before you sit down and illustrate it. No, Aditi, there is no such thing as too much or too little detail. It all depends on what you're comfortable with. I am a minimalist. My comics are always in black and white. To me, I feel that I don't need to embellish them, because that is not the kind of crowd that I'm telling the stories to. And neither do embellishing my comic would serve any purpose. So for me, it's just black and white that I try to work with. Oh, it's very significant, very significant. I'm about to come to that part. Because sometime only the slugs or descriptions do. Descriptions are, let me just show you, let me just break down these aspects. So now this dialogues that you're talking about, they're actually 3 forms. It comes in 3 forms. So wow, this is turning out to be one fun group. You guys ask questions, that is awesome. So I'll just hide everything else so that I can talk about this. And yeah, I have a little handicap. I'm a left-hander, so I can't write in an orientation which is perpendicular to me. But what I will do is I'll write everything and then I'll make it perpendicular so that you can read it easily. So the first thing is description. Second thing is dialogue, which includes spoken, thought. And the third and the most fun aspect is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia are the onomatopoeia are the sound effects. So in case of this comic, this is a onomatopoeia. Chitar is, a sound effect for when you get beaten up. And the gasp, you never look at anything and you say gasp. It's just the sound effect that signifies something. And that is so the gasp is onomatopoeia here. So those bullets that people fire in Batman comic, the sound effects that come with it, that rat-a-tat-a-tat-a-ta or bam, 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 all that is onomatopoeia. So a description, I'll start with a description. And my description here is, I'll just common mistake that you should avoid in storytelling is being dishonest about the stories that you're telling. But that's not a mistake. That's just a predisposition. So there's no right way or wrong way to do it. But yeah, to me, at an early stage, at this stage, when you are trying to start, I would advise you to avoid access and too much information in trying to put too much information in your stories. So start with single panel, graduate to 3 panels, and then slowly build on to more complex form of storytelling. So this is my description, which establishes where the scene is taking place. In my case, it's happening in Paharganj, which is Delhi. And then I'll lead on to dialogues. So for dialogues, I want a little to and fro happening. So also it always helps because our eyes read in a certain direction. So if we are able to, although it's not always possible, but it always helps if we are able to abide by that rule when we are writing the dialogue, which means that I need to write dialogues in the sequence we are supposed to read them, which means that the first dialogue I will write and then it'll lead to this guy saying something. And then this guy saying something again. And feel free to overlap your panels, but don't overdo it, the overlapping part. So for me, this is the order, and this is the order, which means that this line will be read first, this line will be read second, this line will be read third. So once I have established this order, now I can start filling in my dialogues. Again, it's your choice if you want to write it down or if you want to type it. Even the dialogue bubbles, these days they come inbuilt, or you can use them in PNGs. You can use PNGs of that. While you are writing dialogue, also keep in mind the enunciation and try to write things which are more enunciated a little louder, a little bolder, sorry. So just let me get the correct weight. So again, enunciation, I wrote who bolder. And then I'll just and I'm mostly done. And that's just it. I'll just erase the red lines. So yeah, so my joke is over. Let me just. Well, the joke here is that the other guy is asking him. There are two layers of jokes. I'm not sure if you are able to get it, and if you're not able to get it, then it's a poor joke. But I'll explain anyway. The first joke is that how Corona waits when you're eating because you haven't got the mask on. So it's a very polite virus which does not infect you when you eat, because you have to have mask on all time, but while you're eating in a public place. The second joke here is, which is a very embedded joke, is the other guy asking him, who told you to do that? And in this who, the implication of who is different for two different people. The other guy thinks that it's the World Health Organization who that he's talking about, and he says, yes, exactly. So that was a terrible thing that I did, but then I have to do it because I don't see your reaction on the screen. So I don't know if you get the joke or if you don't. And yeah, of course, onomatopoeia, just so that every aspect is covered. When you're doing the typography for onomatopoeia, try to adhere to the emotion that is evoked through that word, or through that through those whatever you're about to write. So like, for instance, I want to say chomp, which is journal semiotics for somebody eating. But when I'm writing it in terms of onomatopoeia, hey, somebody is sending a smiley, a laugh, a smiley. So was that for the joke? Somebody got the joke. Somebody got the joke. Somebody got the joke. That's nice. So yeah, so coming back to this whole thing, what I prefer is illustrating the sound itself. So chomp chomp is, mouth is open and the food is being eaten. So it's kind of disgusting. So I will do a little. David. So what I will do is create a little disgusting typeface. And then I'll just clean it up. So the crux is that when you're doing an onomatopoeia, you need to abide by emotion of that particular sound or the particular sentiment that it kind of evokes. So when a gun has been fired, it's written in bold, the bang bangs. And we'll just make it a little more disgusting by adding few debris and few stray muck into this. And yes, and we are done. So that's the illustration that I had planned to do. So now, like I said, you guys can decide, and there's no hard and fast. You guys can choose to illustrate everything that you saw here, and you can make your own version of things that you want to say, the stories that you want to tell. You don't have to draw if you don't want to. Thank you for being a part of this session. But if you are drawing something, then I would love to see it. And I will be posting my email address soon after this session. And if you have done something that you want to show it to me, please send it as a mail attachment, and I'll be very happy to look at that and maybe discuss that with you. So beyond this, now I will move on, and I'll talk a little about the institution that I represent. I can always come back to this if you have questions. Yes. Of course, you already know this part that I represent MIT ADT University. That has been said more than 3 times in this entire presentation. During this entire presentation, this is the campus. If you have not seen it already, this whole thing that you see in this is the campus. I mean, right up till the horizon, all that is the campus. Yes, there is a river that runs through the campus. Yes, we use that river for recreational purposes. So there is canoeing that happens here. So this is what it is. It looks much good in person. If you are here, then you will be able to absorb this much better. And so this is our cluster. So we have a technology and management cluster and a creative cluster. We are a part of creative cluster. Along with us, there is a Sangeet Kala Academy, Film and Television School, ISBJ, which is a school of broadcasting and journalism. We have Fine Art College and a School of Architecture. So we are part of that cluster. And then within the university, to promote the entrepreneurial spirit, we have two bodies. One is CREA, the other is the Atal Incubation Center. and the people who have ideas, the students who have ideas, can always go through this sub-establishment to nurture those ideas and take them further. This is largely little information about us. We have a lot of design students. We have 4 verticals: industrial, communication, fashion, and management. I am from communication vertical because I'm an animation designer. We have 12 BDes programs, 14 MDes programs. We have PhD programs, 65 full-time faculty members, which again I'm a part of. But then we have 70 plus visiting faculty from India and abroad, 15 international collaborations, which the number is always increasing. 500 plus industries on board, 1,000 capacity twin sharing hostel facility, and 125 acres of residential campus, which I just showed you the picture of. These are the programs that we offer. Underneath the industrial umbrella, we have interior design, product design, retail, and transportation. Under communication design, we have animation, film and video, graphic design, and transcultural design. Transcultural design is only MDes as of now. Then we have user experience umbrella, under which you have user experience design and immersive design. Then we have fashion vertical, under which umbrella we have fashion and fashion communication. And then we have a management, design management umbrella, in which we have design management, which is just MDes, and fashion management and marketing. And then, so all this are degrees. And then we have 2 diploma programs, which is automotive sculpting for clay and digital, and PG diploma in innovation. These are the stalwarts who lead us. These are all the HODs. You can always go to our website and look them up. There's plenty of information about them available on our webpage. And so this is largely the spheres that we work in, and this is the kind of work that happens over here, which includes automotive sculpting, mixed media experience center, human interaction, material research, bamboo, design for children, craft support center, design for society, immersive lab, camera obscura, tie and printing lab. So all this is something that happens over here in the Center of Excellence, and that's us. So with this, I conclude my presentation. I will leave it to you guys. If you have any doubts, any question, I'll be more than happy to take them. Good question, Nikita. Not as a student, as somebody who's a responsible citizen, you should always illustrate political and controversial topics. What comics allows you to do, which is perhaps the most powerful thing that comics can do, is that you can talk about something very serious, but you can package it as something which is very non-serious, because when we're talking about comic, it's cartoons, and those cartoons can be talking about things, making a statement, being author's voice, which is author surrogate. You are the author, and they can be talking about something which is very, very serious, but and yet they are not in your face, and that's why editorial cartoons are so popular. But yes, be responsible. The things that you're talking about, have an observation on them objectively, and do not be subjectively involved in that form of politics, or in that form of social, that social issue, which narrows your view. So there was another question. Sorry, I missed it. No, it's never clear cut. Never. It's impossible to have a clear cut idea. You always get ideas in fragments, and then you just slowly build on it. You know, that tendency that you have, it's called gestalt, and now gestalt is something which is a subject on its own, but I'm just saying a name. You can look it up. When your mind fills in the information which is missing. Oh, Gauri, I'm answering Gauri here. So I'm answering what Gauri asked me. So the idea is never very clear. You always have fragments of information, and that obscurity is always always good, because otherwise there'll be no difference between science and us. If we are looking at everything very well packaged and everything to have an answer, then there's no space for creativity. Did I answer that, Gauri? Did I answer your question to your satisfaction? Oh, Harshita, absolutely no problem. If you have an art style, that art style, it's a natural tendency for you to draw your comic in your own art style. So I don't think you should have a problem in keeping it consistent. You will have a problem in keeping it consistent when you're drawing your comic in somebody else's art style. Maybe you want to do illustration in Bill Watterson's style, or maybe Udarjo's style, and you will have problem then. How do I learn to draw according to how I visualize in my mind? It's a tough question, because the answer of this varies depending on at what skill level are you right now. Am I? But then this is something which comes with practice. But if you have something in mind, references are always a good go-to. So you want to draw something, the easiest way is what you want to draw. Catch hold of people in your family, make them sit in one place, make them stand in one place, take your mobile camera, take a picture of it. At least you have one visual reference ready, and then you can start using that visual reference to illustrate. Or you can always go to comics, similar comics done in the same sphere of the kind of story you want to tell, and you can look at that for references. You guys can unmute yourself and you can ask me the questions. Is that correct? That's what I was supposed to say? Yeah, okay, cool. You guys can ask your questions, like you don't have to type in the chat. You can unmute yourself and you can like speak. Both options are available to you. So if you want to ask questions in chat, that's fine. If you want to talk to me, That'll be great.
Hello,
Oh,
Arup.
finally.
Hello, Arup. I'm Dr. Agini from Sunbeam School, Lehartara, Varanasi.
Oh, hello.
So I'm a fine arts teacher here for classes 11, 12 basically. So if you could give us few information about the animation courses, what is the duration of the course, how the entrance exam could be cracked, and a few of my students have also joined this one. And
Okay,
you're
I'm just very
fabulous
happy.
student.
I'm just very happy to hear from you. Lehartara is I mean, that place was known for the bridge on the GT road. That's Lehartara,
Yeah,
right?
right, true.
Right.
Very true.
I have
Yes.
studied in Varanasi. I am a St. John's alumni.
Okay, I'm also from a St. John's.
St. John's, Mehrauli?
Gilda Blue, 96 batch.
Oh, I'm from 96 batch.
Yes.
I passed in 94, 95.
Okay.
We must have crossed path in some
Right.
fair or something. Very nice to hear from you. I'm sorry, I just got too emotionally caught up in the whole Varanasi thing. Can you ask me your question again?
Yeah, what are the animation related courses and how to crack the entrance exams? What is the procedure of the entrance exams there?
Yes, there are no animation related courses. Animation is a vertical. So if a candidate is joining at undergrad level, they will be graduating out from here as animation designer. So it's just one course. So this is how it happens. It's a 4-year program. When they join, the first year they spend is a common year for all. So everybody studies everything. And then after the end of the first year, they pick their specialization. And that's when they go to their respective verticals. And the next 3 years, they study in that vertical. And the last semester, which is their 8th semester, is when they go out and they go out into the industry and they do a graduation project. The graduation project is like a thesis. So what they will do is they will, once they have finished and they have scored required credit to enter the 8th semester, they will become eligible for a graduation project. In graduation project, they will leave the campus, they will go out in the industry, and they will get themselves a sponsor, an industrial sponsor, and they'll do the next 4 months under that sponsor. They'll create a film, write a thesis on that film, and they will come back and they'll present it and they'll take their degree. The second part of this, your question was how to crack the entrance exam. Well, the entrance exam is like any other entrance exam. So it's a very, very, not necessarily, it's a very balanced exam. So there is a lot of current affairs questions that will be asked. There is a lot of questions from geometry that will be asked. There's also some bit of general awareness that will be there. So, and they'll be drawing related questions. So it's a combination of everything. And so if you intend to prepare for this competitive exam, 2 things are important. One is having a genuine inclination towards this, which means illustrating, drawing, or creating a stuff, even if it's using material. And the second is being aware of what's going on around the world, and also respecting everything that you have learned in the school, because that adds up to the question paper, the entrance question paper directly. Sarthak, how can we effectively use color in visual storytelling? Yes, color play a very, very significant part in visual storytelling. Although my illustrations are not colored, but my animation films are colored. So yes, it does. Color play a lot of part in symbolism itself. Also creating a certain mood, a certain emotional pitch. Color contributes to it. Not just color, even the texture contributes to it. I generally keep my illustrations black and white because it's not, they are, I don't really need an emotional pitch in those. They are all very light-hearted. So that's why my tendency is to keep my my predisposition is to keep my illustration just black and white. All right, so admission are open for this year. In case of any query, please feel free to call the admission cell in MIT ID. The phone number is 9209-800-600. And you can also take my email ID. Oh, it's been already sent. So, okay.
Hello, sir. Yes, here.
Yes.
Sir, my question is, sir, how to grow as a storyboard artist in India?
I'm sorry, the voice is very.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, how to grow as a storyboard artist in India?
Grow as a storyboard artist?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, if you want to grow as a storyboard artist, you will have to watch a lot of films, and you will have to study cinema and study film language, other than knowing to illustrate, which is a given because we're talking about storyboarding already. So beyond knowing how to illustrate, you will need a very, very strong sense of cinema. And when I say cinema, cinematography and editing. So for that, you'll have to watch films, look at the making of the films, read books about the making of the films, and yeah, so that's that. Also, another good thing that you can do if you want to become a storyboard artist, there are websites. One that I know which is called imsdb.com, which is International Movie Script Database. And you can go to that website and you can download scripts of the film. And then you can vis-a-vis look at the script and the film and read how that whatever is written is translating into a visual in the film. And that's a good practice because that way you are able to bridge that gap between text and image.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Saloni, I can read your question, but I think I'm not the right person to be answering this question because I'm not a new media or experimental film designer or interactive designer. I'm sure that there will be another webinar in which the experts in those areas would be sitting, and it'll be nice if you can be a part of that and answer this question to them. I am not a person who comes from any of these spheres. I'm so sorry, Saloni, that I couldn't answer that, but I'll be dishonest if I do. Okay, I'm getting a timeout signal. So anyone, last question I can take, and then we'll have to just Satvik, I think yeah, how do I answer that? I teach animation design. I think the future of animation design is pretty good. See, and it's a this whole to answer this in the best way possible. I'll have to take a lot of time, so I'll try to just give you a very abridged version of it. We have produced batches after batches of animation designer, postgrad and undergrad in last 14 years. 14, 15 years. And all of them have been absorbed constantly. So I think that the future is fairly okay. The fact that there's a lot of work happening. When we were studying animation, the only animation that we knew and we were taught was the animation that you see in films and the animation that you see in television episodes. But now there's animation happening in gaming, there's animation happening in interactive media design, there's animation that is happening in user experience design, there's animation happening in computer-based training, there's educational animation happening in all the forms of education, all the subjects of education. So the demand for animation has increased many folds. Is that does that answers your question? Satvik? Well, you can start by taking a pen in hand. That's a good place to start, Among. You should take a pen in hand. Even better, take a pencil in hand, because pen will kill your confidence. And look at the work of other artists, because that's how people always start. We started when we looked at other people's work. When I saw comics done by Bill Watterson or Mad, or when I saw Tintin illustrations, that inspired me. And the first thing that we started drawing was the illustrations out of those books. So yeah, you can start with looking at good inspiration and picking a pen or a pencil. So I think the time has come for me to say goodbye. It has been, honestly, this has been a very, very rewarding and a phenomenal experience interacting with you guys. You guys had been awesome. So much of questions. I'm very, very flattered, which means that you had been with me all throughout. You were paying attention to the rest of the presentation. So I'm very, very honored and very touched that you had asked me so many questions. And if you have any other questions, then you can always mail. My ID has already been shared, I'm being told. So with that, I'll be handing over to Bhavika. And thank you so much again. And I'll look forward to seeing at least a few of you in the campus and in the department. So, adios.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank Professor Arup, sir, for the most interesting and inspiring session. Thank you all the participants for joining us today. Thank you to the coordinators and technical team for their support. So lastly, please, I request the technical team to please play the AV of MIT Institute of Design. Thank you all.
I make the world graphical.
I add value through my products.
I am an animator.
I am a filmmaker. I develop trends.
I transform designs to reality.
I create environments.
I translate stories to furniture.
I design experiences.
I'm an immersive media designer.
I design mobility.
This is not only a design institute.
This is a design lab.
Join us in our design